Something happened to you recently. Something good, maybe really good. The kind of thing that makes you stop for a second and just feel it. And you did not post about it. Not because you forgot, not because you were too busy. You just didn't. The moment was yours. And somewhere in your body, you knew that the second you opened the app, something would shift. Something would change hands. Now think about how the people around you reacted when they found out you don't really post, the slight confusion, the follow-up question that is actually a judgment dressed as curiosity. Wait, you're not on Instagram? Said the way people used to say. Wait, you don't own a television? As if not broadcasting your life is the strange choice, as if living it quietly is the thing that needs explaining. Here is what the research actually says. People who don't post on social media are not antisocial. They are not hiding. They are not secretly miserable or arrogant or afraid. In many cases, they have simply stopped outsourcing the meaning of their own moments to a platform that was never designed to hold them. But, and there is always a but, not everyone who stays quiet online is doing it from a place of strength. Some of them are doing it from somewhere much harder to name. By the end of this video, you are going to understand the real psychology behind why certain people live their entire lives without needing a single person to double tap their existence. We are going to look at what neuroscience says about the brain on social validation and why some nervous systems simply never got hooked on that particular drug. And we are going to spend some time on the third type of person in this group, the one nobody talks about, the one who doesn't post not because they don't care what people think, but because they care far too much. You have probably been in a room where someone said, "Did you see what I posted?" And you had not, because you had been off the app for 3 days and the world was the exact same as when you left. You go to things and you do not document them. You feel things and you do not caption them. You build a life and you do not narrate it for an audience that was never really there in the first place. And yet, the assumption is always that something must be wrong, that you are either too proud, too private, too damaged, or too boring to have anything worth sharing. None of those are it, and the psychology behind what is actually happening is far more interesting than any of those explanations.
Let's start with the neuroscience, because this is where it gets genuinely fascinating. Every time you post something online and someone reacts to it, your brain releases a small hit of dopamine, the chemical that drives reward, motivation, and craving. Not a huge hit, just enough to make you want to check again, and again, and again. Psychologist B.J. Fogg, who studied how technology is designed at Stanford, described this as a variable reward schedule. In plain English, the reason social media is so addictive is not that it always feels good, it is that it sometimes feels good, unpredictably. The same mechanism that makes a slot machine impossible to walk away from. But here is the thing about slot machines. Not everyone who walks into a casino becomes a gambler. Some people pull the lever once, feel nothing particularly compelling, and go home. People who do not post are often people whose dopamine system simply did not latch on to that specific loop. Maybe they get their reward from making something that takes months to finish. Maybe they get it from a conversation that goes deep. Maybe they get it from the private knowledge that the moment was real, and that its realness does not depend on anyone else confirming it. Their brain found a different currency, and once you found a currency that actually satisfies, the cheap substitute loses its appeal entirely. But neurochemistry is only one part of the story, because there's a second group of non-posters whose psychology goes somewhere most social media content never bothers to explore, and this one is about identity, in a way that will make you rethink everything you assume about privacy. There's a second type of person who doesn't post, and this one is not about dopamine. It's about something psychologists call identity foreclosure. In plain English, the fear of being pinned down, of being seen in one fixed way by people who knew you 5 years ago and haven't updated the file. When you post, you're not just sharing a moment, you're making a claim about who you are,
And those claims accumulate. They build a version of you that exists on a server somewhere, permanent, searchable, available for judgment by anyone who ever wanted to form an opinion without asking. Psychologist Erik Erikson spent his career studying how humans build identity and what happens when that identity gets locked into a single story too early. He found that the people who develop the most resilient, flexible sense of self are the ones who are allowed to keep changing without an audience recording every draft. And that's exactly what social media removes: the right to be unfinished, the right to have a phase, the right to think something on Tuesday that you no longer think on Thursday without a screenshot to contradict you. People in this group aren't hiding who they are, they're protecting the right to keep becoming it. And then there's the third group, the one that this video has been building towards, because this group doesn't stay quiet online out of self-possession or neurochemistry. They stay quiet because they have a secret they've never fully said out loud. Be honest for a second. Have you ever composed the post in your head? You had the photo, you had the caption, the good one, the one that sounded effortless but you'd been workshopping for 11 minutes, you had your thumb on the button, and then you stopped. Not because you decided it wasn't worth sharing, but because a quieter, colder thought arrived first. What if nobody cares? Not the casual nobody, the shrug of indifference, but the specific, named nobody, the people whose opinion of you already feels like a verdict you're waiting to be handed. So you locked the screen, and you told yourself you just didn't feel like posting. And that was true, and it was also something else. Psychologist Mark Leary at Duke University spent years researching what he called sociometer theory. In plain English, your brain runs a constant background process monitoring how much you're valued by the people around you. It's not vanity, it's a survival system as old as the first human tribe that ever voted someone out. And for people with a highly sensitive sociometer, people who feel the subtle shifts in how they're perceived more acutely than others, the risk of posting and receiving silence is not just uncomfortable, it feels like proof. Proof of the thing they already half believe about themselves, that they're less visible, less interesting, less worth the reaction than the people around them seem to be. So silence becomes the safest strategy. You can't be underwhelmed by a response that never came to a post you never made.
You see this tension everywhere in culture once you know what it is. Think about the people in your life who you genuinely admire most, the ones who seem to carry themselves with real ease, real presence. Chances are they post rarely, or not at all. Not because they have nothing to say, but because they already know their life is real without a timestamp on it. Think about the character of Keanu Reeves, not the movies, the person, famously one of the most admired public figures across every generation, famously private, famously absent from social media drama, famously documented by others in quiet moments of genuine kindness he never announced or posted himself. The absence of the performance made the authenticity undeniable. What he did not post said more than most people's feeds ever could. So what do you do with all of this? I am not going to tell you to delete your apps. I am not going to suggest a digital detox or a 30-day social media fast or any other prescription that treats the symptom instead of the source. What I am going to ask you is one thing, just one. When you don't post, are you keeping the moment, or are you keeping yourself safe? Because if you are keeping the moment, if the silence comes from a full place, from a life that does not need a caption to know its own worth, then you have something most people spend years in therapy trying to reach, and it deserves to be recognized for what it is. But if you are keeping yourself safe, if the unlocked caption is still sitting in your head from 11 months ago, waiting for a moment it cannot trust, that's worth noticing. Not because you should post it, but because the fear underneath it deserves more than a locked screen and a quiet justification. You are not less real because you are not documented. You are not less seen because the algorithm does not have a record of you. Your life does not require a witness to have happened.
Remember the moment at the beginning of this video, the good thing that happened, the moment you sat in without reaching for your phone, the one that stayed entirely yours. You thought it was a small decision, a nothing, just a Tuesday when you happened not to post. But what you were actually doing, whatever your reason, was refusing to trade the experience for the report of the experience, refusing to turn the real thing into the version of the real thing designed to be consumed by strangers. Some people do that because they are free, some people do that because they are afraid, and some people are a little of both, which is the most human thing of all. Whatever your reason, the fact that you are here, paying attention to your own interior life carefully enough to watch a video about it, that already tells you something worth knowing. If something in this video landed somewhere specific, leave a comment. Not a long one. Just tell me which group you recognize yourself in. The one who genuinely doesn't need it? The one protecting their right to keep changing? Or the one with an 11-month-old caption still sitting in a locked notes app somewhere? No judgment, I promise. Someone else is going to read that comment at midnight, phone in hand, caption typed and deleted, and feel something shift just from knowing they're not alone in it. The next video on this channel is about something that lives right next door to everything we just talked about. It's about the people who were deeply, genuinely liked by everyone around them and somehow still feel completely unknown. Same quiet space, even more specific. Subscribe so it finds you. It already knows who it's for.